Let's go ahead and take a look at the NURB primitive. Go to Create, NURB Primitive. By default, when you just start using Maya, the interactive creation is on. What it allows you to do is by going to Create any of these primitives, say I'm going to go ahead and choose cone. You can drag the base on a grid. Okay, so say if I want to do it here or here, I can do it here, and then I can drag it for the set of height. So with interactive creation on, you have the freedom of creating the size you want on a base, the size you want on a height, interactively. For the purpose of this demo, we're just going to try to keep things simple. And personally, I like to create things in the origin, okay, just for better organization. So I'm going to disable interactive creation. Okay, now we're ready to look at a primitive. If you go to create NURB primitive, you can see that there's a dotted line right here. You can choose to tear off this dotted line menu. That's going to tear up the sub menu. On the right hand side of those menu, you can see this box right here, this so-called option box. So if you click on the option box, you're going to see the option box. By default, the axis is on the y-axis. If you think about a sphere, just like the Earth has the North Pole and the South Pole. Right now, the pole is going to aligning on the y-axis. You can choose to change to x or z if you want. Startup sweep angle is at 0, and the sweep angle at 360. That's going to give you a full revolution of the spheres. Surface degree by default is cubic degree. That's degree of 3. That's going to give you a nice rounded shape. If you change that to linear degree, that's going to give you more of a faceted polygon feel to it. You got 8 sections and 4 spans. The more subdivision you have, the more components you get to control with it. Let's go ahead and leave everything at default and create. You create a default spheres at radius 1, sitting right at the origin. You can press the hotkey F for the focus view, and that will bring the focus view to the geometry. If you choose to press the hotkey 4, that's going to bring out the wireframe. If you press hotkey 5, that's the shaded mode. Okay, or you can use the icons right on the top here, wireframe, shaded mode. So you can see that in the channel box. Okay, so this is the channel box. If you somehow lose the channel box, you can click on the icon above the garbage can right here. Or if you lose all the UI components, you can go to display, UI elements. Okay, so say you accidentally close the channel box or you don't know how to bring it back, you can go to display UI elements, and then you can choose to click on channel box if you don't have it on the screen. Okay, so in the channel box, it displays the attribute of this geometry. You got your translate information, rotation, and scale. Under the input, under the Make NURB Sphere 1, this is the shorter version of the option box, and with this, allow you to change it after you already create a primitive. So here you can change the radius to 3 if you want. You can change the end sweep angle to maybe 180. So that's going to give you more of a half spheres. You can do 90 degree if you want. So right now I want to show you a quick control where you can highlight any of this attribute by name. Highlight the name, bring your mouse to the modeling view, hold on to the middle mouse button, drag it to the left or right, and you can see I'm changing it in real time. I can change my section 8 and 4, but you're not really going to see the difference. But when I go ahead and change my degree from cubic to linear, now you can see the feel of this geometry. It looks more faceted. We can go ahead and change this section to 4 and spans to 2. And it looks more like a diamond shape. All right, let's go ahead and delete this one by pressing the delete button. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at NURB cube. Now with the NURB cube, I always say it's evil and don't use it. And the reason I say that is because the NURB cubes are made out of the NURB cube, is made out of 6 different planes. Okay, so you can see that if I select that plane, if I move it, now that's no longer a cube. So a lot of time when you want to create a cube, you want it to behave like a cube, not 6 different planes. So it becomes quite cumbersome to try to just manipulate this cube object. Okay, I mean, this way to get around it, you can choose it as a group, but it just seems a little bit more work. So don't use NURB cube if you can. Let's go ahead and take a look at cylinder. If you print out the option box, you can see that we got our default start at 0, finish at 360. You got your radius and height and all that. What is really the big difference is the cap. You can choose to have caps on both, or you can have caps on the bottom or the top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create, say, both. And create. There we go. All right, so I'm going to use this example to maybe create like a simple head for the snowman. By the way, snowman is your first homework assignment. Okay, so I have this one, and I am going to make it as a base. So go ahead and scale this. You can go ahead and use the scale button, the scale tool, and click and drag on the green box to scale it down. Okay, I'm going to move this down a little bit lower. Then, if you want, you can change the radius too. So maybe I can make it a little bit wider. Maybe that's good. So that'll be the base of the head. Then I'll go ahead and create another primitive cylinder. Okay. So this one is really similar to the first one, but with this one, I want to increase more subdivision on the spans. Okay, the span is the vertical section. So I'm going to go ahead and change that to 2. So now you see that now I get more division here. The more division I get, the more components I got. Okay, so what is the concept of components is that the geometry is made out of components inside. For the NURB geometry, if you go to the component mode, which is this icon right here, you can see that the first icon for the NURB geometry is control vertex. So that means if I select the control vertex, if I select some of the dots and use the move tool, I can manipulate the shape. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find a nice view, nice straight on view. Maybe I'll go ahead and select these whole rows of control vertex. Actually, it's control vertices. Press R, it's a shortcut for scale tool. Drag on the center yellow box, that stands for uniform scale. Drag it to the left. And now you can see I'm just changing the shape. Repeat that for these rows of control vertices. Drag it to the left on the scale. Do the same for this one. There you go. Okay, if you want to change the head maybe or the shape, you can drag the selection of the control vertex. Be careful with the NURB cylinder because the NURB cylinder's caps on the top is kind of separate from the body. So if you accidentally select it and move it, you might have an open-ended head. Okay. All right. To make it as a whole, or to make it behave like a head, what we want to do maybe is to make it into a group. Okay, so let's go ahead and select both geometry as an object. Go to Edit and Group. So right now we have 2 geometry, cylinder 1, cylinder 2. I'm going to go ahead and group the whole thing. And right now it's so-called group 1. I'm going to call this one head. So now you can see that with this new group of head, I got this new pivot point at the bottom. So with this new pivot point, I can move as a group. I can rotate as a group. Now, one thing I want to talk about is that a lot of time when you deselect it and you want to select a group again, because by default we are in the object mode, so when you are selecting those objects, you are still selecting individual object. If you want to go back to the group mode, there are two ways you can do it. One is by go to this one right here. This is so-called select by hierarchy and combination. I always call it just the group mode. So if you click on it and then choose this geometry, you can see it's selecting the highest group. Good. But most of the time we're going to be staying in the object mode. So what is the easiest way to select the group mode? When you're in the object mode, you can use the pick walking, which is your arrow key. So right now we are in the child hierarchy. If you use the arrow key up, then we're going to travel to the group hierarchy. We're going to travel to the parents. Okay, so now we can access the head group. So now I can continue manipulate this as a whole head. We're going to get into the hierarchy a little bit more in following weeks. For now, this is enough just to kind of give you a basic understanding. Make sure you read the object mode, the component mode, and the hierarchy mode. It is in your reading exercise. The next thing we're going to go ahead and take a look at is the cone. Okay, so with the cone, what it allows you to do is pretty much the same thing with the cylinder. You can have the bottom. I'm going to turn the cone into a snowman's nose. So I'm going to turn it into a carrot's nose. So go ahead and just leave it by default. Okay, create a cone. I'm going to make it tall. So I'm going to change the height ratio a little bit taller. Maybe I want to have the radius a little bit shorter. I mean, not shorter, but narrower. Okay, so it's more pointy. I'm going to change my spans. I hope you can see the spans. I'm going to change that to 3. Very good. So like I say, the more subdivision I have, the more components I got to manipulate the shape. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this on x-axis for 90 degrees. All right, so now this cone is facing forward, and if you imagine you got a snowman's right here, then this nose can stick right at the head. Okay, so go to the F8 mode, the component mode. The hotkey for that is F8. So say if you have this object selected, if you press hotkey F8, you can switch to the component mode. If you want to turn it back, you can press F8 again. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and select this whole row of the control vertex. Use the move tool. The hotkey for the move tool is W. Drag it to the left. Select this whole row of control vertex. Drag it to the right. There you go. Okay. The next primitive we're going to go ahead and take a look at is the plane. Planes are pretty powerful. Oh, sorry, I have the tear off menu right here, so I don't need to go up there. The planes, very straightforward. Now, what I want to do is turn this into like terrain, like mountains or hills or things like that. So to do that, I want to change my patches UMV, which means subdivision. So I'm going to change that to maybe 12 by 12. Change my width to maybe 50. So that should cover the whole ground. It's pretty big. Let's go ahead and go to the component mode. Press hotkey F8 for that. I'm going to use the Lasso Select tool, which is this, right here. Okay, it's the Lasso tool, which is the second tool right in your toolbox. Go ahead and drag a selection. Hold on the Shift key and just keep on adding this to your selection. Okay. Once we have all this selected, let's go ahead and use the move tool and move it on the y-axis. Let's repeat that one more time. Deselect it and use the Lasso Select. Drag the selection randomly Okay, I want my landscape to be somewhat of a chaotic. I'm not following certain pattern at this point. So drag the selection. Use the move tool, move it on the y-axis for the height. Very nice. Go back to the object mode by press the hotkey F8. There it is. So you can choose to put your snowman on the mountain. Good. All right. The next one I'm going to go ahead and take a look at is the torus. Okay. Torus is just like a donut or a lightsaber. So if you choose torus, you can see that, right, it's a lightsaber right here. And what you can do with the control we have under the input, we got a radius. So if you change the radius to say, what radius, you know, we'll leave it at 1. But if you change the height ratio, let's change that to say 0.2. Then this could be like a motorcycle tire or a steering wheel or something, or maybe a swimming, you know, those, well, I say it's more like a tire. You also can change that to say like 0.03 maybe, and that's really skinny. So with that, it could be like a hula hoop if you want, hula loop actually, if you want. So by changing the by changing the shape, by utilizing those primitive options, you can really get a lot of basic shape if you want it. I'm gonna change this back to 0.5, I believe. You can also change the end sweep angle. So I'm gonna change this to maybe somewhere around say 180 or so. And I hope this looks familiar to you. It's like a macaroni. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and change this back to 360, and we're gonna play with the one last attribute is the minor sweep. Middle mouse drag it to the left or right, and you can see that it almost looks like some sort of a cord. Something, I feel like I can see this in some sort of a movie set, in some spaceship or some sort. Pretty cool. I like this shape a lot. It could be a mushroom, the base of the mushroom. Okay, so that is the torus. The next one we're going to go ahead and take a look at is a circle. Okay, circles are one of my favorite tools. I think it's really fun. By default, this circle is for 360 degree. A lot of time when you're doing computer graphic, it's really close related to math. Okay, so you can see the circle, 360 degree right here. You got your radius, and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and change my degree to, first of all, I'm going to change my section to 10. And then I'm going to change my degree to linear. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and close these options. Okay, so you can see now this almost looks like a stop sign, but no, we have 10-sided. Okay, so what you can do is go to the component mode, and you can see this is what the spheres, I mean the circles components. You got the dot, a whole bunch of dots. But if you look closely, you can see that there is a square and a dot. Okay, so the square indicating that's the beginning of this circle, and a dot at the end indicating there is the end of the circle. So if I show you, if I click on the dot and I go ahead and actually I didn't click on the dot, I click on the square. If I move it out of the way, you can see that there's actually 2 points sitting on top of each other. So be careful when you are manipulating the circle. My recommendation would be just stay outside of this component. So I'm going to start from here, select this one, hold on to Shift key, select every other control vertex. Okay. Use the scale tool, go ahead and scale it, uniform scale, drag on the center yellow box, drag it to the left, keep doing that. And there, we got to start. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a curve. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to either the front view or side view. So I'll go to the front. And I'm going to create a curve by using Create EP Curve tool. And maybe start somewhere around here, a little bit above that start. Click it maybe 5 or 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Press Enter to complete. Select the start as a curve. Shift key, select the path. And go to Surface menu set, Surfaces, Extrude. There we go. Very cool. You can go ahead and change the scale. Drag it to the left. Looks somewhat familiar, almost like an ice cream. You can also change the rotation, so it's kind of twisting. All right. I don't really like the square because the squares are made out of, square is made out of 4 different curves, and it's pretty annoying. So I usually stay away from the square unless I really need to use it. So we're gonna stop right here. In the next section, we're gonna talk about polygon primitive.